Deep inside a cavern in the French Pyrenees, a steady stream of cold, clear water continues to carve its way through the rock. Since 1858, millions of people have traveled to this precise location. They arrive seeking the intercession of the Blessed Mother, bringing bodies broken by disease, trauma, and time. But operating quietly alongside this devotional reality is a specialized institution, the Bureau de Constataciones Medicales. The Bureau was not established to rubber-stamp miracles. Its mandate is to apply the Lambertini criteria, a set of rules designed to isolate claims that cannot be explained by natural remission, flawed diagnosis, or even functional nervous disorders. The Church subjects claims of healing to hostile, secular review. Medical files are handed over to international panels of university specialists, including atheists and agnostics, who demand biopsies, long-term tracking, and proof of organic change. This intense medical skepticism provides the anvil upon which the reality of our Lord's power is definitively forged, ensuring that only the truly inexplicable survive the scrutiny. To evaluate these historic medical files with total objectivity, we map them against a Bayesian posterior analysis. This golden line represents a mathematical threshold of certainty, set strictly at 50%. When a case scores above this line, the physical evidence of instantaneous, permanent biological repair is robust enough that human science exhausts its natural explanations. However, many historical claims fall below the line. A lower score does not necessarily mean the cure was natural, nor does it suggest our Lord was absent from the patient's suffering. A score below 50% often reflects the limits of 19th century medicine. Before the invention of X-rays or routine lab work, local doctors often could not generate the documentation required to permanently rule out every diagnostic mimic. The filter we apply here measures the survival of human paperwork. It is an evidentiary tool. It does not define the limits of the healing itself. We see the strength of this filter in 1882 with a 50-year-old French religious sister named Eugénie, born Marie Mobile. Sister Eugénie was dying. Tuberculosis had ravaged her lungs, and Pott's disease, a spinal form of the infection, had devoured her vertebrae. She was bedridden, significantly deformed, and waiting for death. Carried on a stretcher, she made the journey to Lourdes. She was immersed in the cold spring water while praying to the Immaculate Conception. Within moments, the dying woman stood up. She walked out of the baths under her own power, her strength and vitality completely restored. The Medical Bureau tracked her for decades. Sister Eugénie never relapsed. She lived 35 more years in robust health, passing away in 1917 at age 85. Her recovery challenged the expectations of the era's most prominent surgeons. It demonstrated that even tissue-destroying organic disease yields to the touch of the Creator. Look at her Bayesian posterior score, at 65 to 70. But her medical file reveals a paradox. While her health was perfectly returned, her vertebrae remained physically twisted and deformed. This anatomical anomaly served as a permanent witness. Our Lord left the physical deformity as a witness to the state she had been in. A spine that remains mechanically broken while the body functions without pain or support creates a biological paradox, one that science recorded but could not resolve through natural laws. We find a sharp contrast to Sister Eugénie in an 1893 case involving a young clergyman, Father Surette. Father Surette suffered from progressive bulbar paralysis, a neurological condition that destroys the brainstem. It was robbing him of his ability to speak, swallow, and eventually breathe. He arrived at the grotto in deep faith. Shortly after his pilgrimage, he returned home with his voice, strength, and ministry fully restored. On our map, Father Surette's score sits well below the threshold at 35%. 19th century doctors lacked modern tools, like MRI, to prove his nerve damage was structural rather than functional. The low score acknowledges missing data, not a denial of grace. While we can honor the likelihood that the Lord healed this priest, we must remain precise about what the medical filter alone can formally declare. Zooming out across the 19th century, we see many cases resting in that silent category. But Sister Eugénie was not alone at the top of the scale. In 1892, two women, Marie Le Marchand and Marie Le Branchou, arrived at Lourdes. Between them, they suffered from horrific, terminal pulmonary tuberculosis and facial lupus. Both were cured within a day of each other. Their recoveries were witnessed firsthand by Émile Zola, the famous atheist author and history's quintessential hostile observer. Confronted directly with Marie Le Marchand's healed face, Zola stubbornly refused the evidence. He famously stated, "To me, she is still ugly." Zola later published a novel where he wrote that the women died shortly after leaving the spring. In reality, both women lived healthy lives for decades after their cures. The fact that Zola felt compelled to fabricate their deaths in his writing only strengthens the evidence. The cures were so undeniable that a skeptic of his stature had to rewrite the ending to protect his worldview. Looking at the 19th century verdict, the Church's filter formally confirms three souls: Eugénie, Le Marchand, and Le Branchou. For these three women, human science exhausts its natural explanations. The Lord touched them, and the work held. For the others, Father Surette, Peter de Ruyter, and the original pilgrims of 1858, we see a constellation of softer lights floating beneath the line. Silent is not no. The Blessed Mother may well have carried every one of their prayers to her Son. What the strict filter cannot now establish on paper, we will know fully in heaven. These early cases set a precedent. As diagnostic tools advanced, the clinical documentation at the grotto became even harder to explain through natural remission alone. Next, the tuberculous era, what our Lord did with the disease of an age.